Anybody on the other side? Is Richard here?
Yes.
Hey, come on in. Okay, everybody. Our special guest is here. This is Richard Earhart. Richard, this is everybody.
Hi.
He's a writer and an actor out here out of Spokane. We've been working together for a while, a year or so, maybe more closer to 3, I think, with the road and stuff. Yeah. Anyway, the way I'm yelling at people. The mic's up here, the camera's right there.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm going to ask you some questions. A couple of these guys are younger filmmakers. One guy here is Popcorn Monster is named Tom. I think you might Tom. He's helping us with the special effects and stuff.
Okay.
So, but working on my interview skills, I cheat a little bit. Anyway, we'll get back to the Q&A a little bit. Let's do Richard's interview. Gosh, this is dark today. I'm going to work on the set. I'm going to work on the lighting because right now it's kind of weird. I also know my regular camera works on this, so we're going to do some blue screen stuff too. All right. How did you get started in your acting, Richard?
Well, actually, back in high school, it was one of the things I really liked to do. Mm-hmm. I was kind of a theater geek, not a sports fan, and really put it on hold for a long time. And then a couple of years ago, Ron Ford asked me to be in one of his films,
Which is The Road.
A
lot of these guys know about stuff involving The Road.
Yeah, and my wife is a professional actress. So.
And who's your wife?
Ann Selko.
So, if you guys, Ann is awesome. I've seen her in plays. I've seen her in a lot of stuff. She's a fantastic actress. Let's scoot over to give you more room. They want to see you more than they want to see me. Anyway, check Ann out on the IMDb. You can get a list of her films. She's been in a lot of stuff. She did the character very well.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, she did. So, how did you get started in writing?
Just sat down and started writing one day.
I love that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, you'll see the name Ladry and Citrus. These guys are young writers, and they're very talented. I've read some of their screenplays and some of their work. They're the reason I'm doing this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I love doing it. I know Tom very well. Mitch I know from a site called Zeotrope, and he came in last week, and he's hanging out. But this is a way we can encourage these young guys to kind of pay it forward type of deal.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I'm a minister, and I've had to write sermons every Sunday, and just got used to being able to write quickly, and really had some stories bouncing around in my head, and sat down, wrote out a script, which is called The Thing About Vampires, which we're going to be making at some point.
Yeah.
And really kind of excited. In fact, I just workshopped it with an actors workshop group.
You were telling me about that.
And it was a hit. I was actually surprised. They got all the jokes. They really laughed. A lot of fun. So, I'm also working on a feature-length film about a couple of serial killers here in Spokane.
And this one is wicked.
Yeah, this one is over the top extreme.
Yes. I think this is Popcorn Monster. This will definitely appeal to him. He's the one he's got a story that you know a little bit about involving.
Yeah, I heard a little about that. Yeah, because I mean, what I got with the idea with the serial killers is I'm kind of into extreme horror. I mean, not as a steady diet, because I really my genres are horror and exploitation.
Yeah.
And almost exclusively horror and exploitation. And really started to think about, as I looked at some of the real extreme ones, like August Underground. I don't know if anybody's seen any of the August Underground films, or, murder set pieces, or...
Inside?
Oh, yeah, that had everybody screaming at my house when we had a horror night.
Yeah.
So, I look at those, and I think there's some really good stuff in there, but I keep saying, but where's the meat? You can hand the gore, and I love the gore, but there's a point when it's like, where's the meat?
Exactly.
And sort of one of my greatest cinema-going experiences was back in the day when 42nd Street, before 42nd Street was bought by Disney, I got to see the movie Make Them Die Slowly in a movie theater filled with drug addicts, drunks, pimps. Yeah, guinea pig. That's another one. Drug addicts, drunks, thugs, and I was a drunk at the time.
I think you told me this story how everybody was cheering throughout the every most grisly scenes, and people were like cheering.
And they were getting bored when there wasn't gore splattered across the screen. It is just, yes, aka Cannibal Ferox. Really one of the best film experiences of my life because the audience made it. And I want to make a movie for them, even though those theaters don't exist anymore.
Right.
So I'm looking at the psychological depth as I'm looking into the characters' minds and the kind of what I'm trying to do with that is sort of the exploitation films of the 60s. A lot of this exploitation stuff was shot silently and then narrated. So this is going to have a lot of narration.
Excuse me a second. Anybody here an exploitation film fan? The sexploitation stuff that he's talking about is actually really brilliant, and I know you have a particular favorite.
I have several favorites.
What's her name?
Doris Wishman.
Doris.
But actually, even more than Doris are actually the Findleys.
And the Findleys. I remember we talked about that.
Roberta and Michael Findley make these movies that they just go beyond all bounds of human decency, and I love them.
Yeah. We've actually sat and watched films together. It's always awesome. Now, did you take any classes in writing or acting?
No.
No. Okay.
No, although I went to art school prior to becoming a minister. I was a still photographer.
Right, and let everybody know your claim to fame in still photography.
Oh, I was a food photographer, and I did all the package covers for Eggo frozen waffles, Mrs. Smith frozen pies, Gorton's frozen fish, a lot of package covers, magazine spreads, and so forth. And basically, hate to say it, retired at the age of 25. Did very well. So that was it. But really, it's just a love of the genre and kind of knowing what makes a good story because I know what appeals to me.
Right.
And being able to speak well, publicly, so I can make my dialogue actually sound real as opposed to stilted.
And yeah, I wish I could share more about the serial killer screenplay. Just wait. This will actually blow people away. It's one of the Richard's kind of inexperienced, but he knows what he's doing, and he's better at writing than I am, by far, on his second thing. But anyway, I write notes and then I stare at them, going, "What the heck?"
Actually, want to hear something funny? After the screenwriters workshop, apparently actors workshop. One of the students there is a filmmaking student, and he's got a friend in LA who's looking for somebody to write scripts, and he gave him my name to write up a script from a treatment, and
that's awesome.
Holy shit!
Yeah, that's the way it goes.
Yeah.
You never know when someone's going to hand you that gift.
Yeah.
And when you get into that one a little bit more, I'll have you back. Well, better lighting for sure. We have certain times of day it just looks crappy, but yeah. Now, when you're doing your screenplays, do you come up with an outline, or do you just sit down and write?
The outline's up here.
Okay. Is there a reason you don't put it on paper?
Yeah, because I want to see where I'm going.
Okay.
I mean, that's actually one of the things I kind of got from writing sermons is, I'll have an idea, I think I know where I'm going, and then when I sit down and I write it, all of a sudden stuff starts to come up and take me into a different direction, and usually a more interesting direction.
Right. Now, I've told you guys about using outlines. Richard's situation's a little bit different because of his writing sermon experience, and I'm willing to bet your sermons were visual.
Yes.
So, again, there's no right or wrong. I prefer to write my outlines out just so because if I put it down for a day or two, I don't get lost.